Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about NASCAR in Pocono after we have some huge breaking news that the original winner of the race, Denny Hamlin, and the original second place finisher, the runner-up of today's race at Pocono, have been disqualified from the race. They will then finish 35th and 36th. I was actually just about to post my original post-race video, and then we got the news, so I had to make another one. So here we are. This switched everything around. This changes the points up a little bit. This obviously changes up the playoff points a whole lot, and then, of course, we now have a even more obvious championship favorite, Chase Elliott, now over Denny Hamlin, which, you know, before the disqualification, they both had 3 wins. Now Chase Elliott has 4 wins, and Denny Hamlin has 2, and there's nobody else with even 3 wins in the NASCAR Cup Series for 2022. So let's go ahead and get right on into all the drama. So we did get a report from Bob Pockrass a couple hours after the race, or about a couple hours after the race, that Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch essentially failed post-race inspections, something to do with the front fascia. That's, I guess, the front bumper of the race car. Apparently there was a third party. NASCAR obviously had a press conference with one of the guys who does tech. He explained that there was a third party substance used. I'm not sure what that was used. I don't think it was really, announced or described in detail. And then, of course, Bob Pockrass also posted, Joe Gibbs did have something to say about this. He said, "We are shocked to learn of this infraction that caused our 2 cars to fail NASCAR post-race inspections. We plan to review every part of that process that led to the situation." The rules going into this year were pretty cut clear. We knew the rules were going to be a bit more strict going into this season with the next gen car. NASCAR says you can't use parts outside or customize parts outside of what we give you from our vendors. This is obvious rule. So if there wasn't any, if there wasn't any advantage that they thought they were going to gain from it, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they said in their interview they were a bit surprised that they failed post-race inspections. I guess that's just kind of what you have to say. But obviously you would get caught with it, so maybe just a really bad mistake. Maybe they were going to try to get away with it in post-race inspection. I'm not sure. And for those of you wondering why they were able to pass pre-race inspections, well, according to another report from Bob Pockrass, he explained that a NASCAR official did explain to him that they do not take off the paint, the cover, the wrap, the M&M's wrap, the FedEx wrap for these 2 cars in pre-race inspections. They do for post-race inspections, and that's when they found the third-party substance that we still don't know what is. So it's obviously disappointing. I'm obviously wearing a Kyle Busch hat, and he finishes last today. Denny Hamlin, very disappointing for him. He's celebrating his 3rd win of the year. This changes the whole momentum of a championship, going now with 5 races left in the regular season, being tied for the most wins of the season, now to going back to 2 wins. Chase Elliott gains a win on this, changes the whole momentum of this NASCAR championship in 2022. So I think it's a huge deal. This is also the first time that a driver has been disqualified for the win in the Cup Series since 1960, according to NBC Sports, since 1960 at Wilson Speedway when an oversized fuel tank was used. That's obviously according to NBC Sports. Now, we have seen in the Xfinity Series a few drivers get disqualified. I believe Ross Chastain actually, I think it was a truck race or Xfinity race one time. It might have been at Iowa where he was disqualified and as the winner and did not end up getting the win after celebrating in victory lane. So it's obviously really disappointing. A shame to see that, especially as a Kyle Busch fan. I hate to see that. He's having a rough couple of weeks. I can go through his last few finishes here. We got Sonoma, where he finishes 30th, Nashville 21st, Road America 29th, Atlanta 20th. New Hampshire last week was the best finish out of the last couple of months, and that was 12th. And then, of course, today officially finishes 36th. So it's extremely disappointing to see that. And, NASCAR said after 2018, I believe it was Kevin Harvick who had an illegal race car, but the race, he obviously got the race was incondoned for him. We saw this happen with Joey Logano as well, where all the advantage of the race were taken away, all the points, but you still got the win on your resume. NASCAR did say that they will change the rule going into 2019, and we always kind of wondered, will that happen in the Cup Series for a win? We've seen it for second place, we've seen it for mid-pack racers, but we've never really seen it for the win since they put this in place back in 2019. It's now 3-4 years later. We're kind of wondering, will it happen? When will it happen? And I remember when that rule was put in place, actually, we were like, this could happen. This is a very real thing that could happen. And today, on July 24th, 2022, we got that first case of the winner, and in this place, the second place driver as well, getting disqualified. And maybe that could explain why they were so much faster than everybody else. They were blowing everybody else out except Ross Chastain, who passed post-race inspections. And then you got to look at Denny Hamlin, who essentially paid back Ross Chastain. You can look at the move at the end of this race, coming to the end of this race, second to last restart. Hamlin definitely didn't give Chastain any room. That's going to be another point of conversation after this race. Will this continue? Does Denny Hamlin think that this is over? Does Ross Chastain think it's over? Obviously, Denny Hamlin says in his interview that he thinks he will keep doing this and keep racing more aggressively and not give up any room until he feels he has earned the respect back. And I don't know if he ever will. Obviously, when these two get together on the racetrack, it's going to be close. There's not going to be a lot of give. There's going to be a lot more take out of these two drivers when we see them on the racetrack. But in this situation, it seems like every time Denny Hamlin tries to pay back Ross Chastain or Chastain gets involved with Denny Hamlin, Chastain ends up the winner. And in this case, Chastain once again, even though he didn't finish the race, on the official results, finishes ahead of Denny Hamlin. So that's kind of how that works with him failing post-race inspections. Let's go through the top 10 just real quick, the reevaluated top 10. Chase Elliott, obviously your winner. I talked about him, championship favorite now, 4 wins on the season. So your obvious championship favorite, that's 4 wins. That's 20 playoff bonus points plus his stage points, 1 point per stage win going into the playoffs. So he's going to have a major advantage going into each round of the playoffs when we start that in just 5 more weeks. Tyler Reddick had a good momentum today, finished second place after the disqualification. Pretty decent run. He was actually almost going to go 1 lap down at one point, but was able to stay on the lead lap and get a second place finish. So a decent run for Tyler Reddick, who's been showing a lot of speed the last few weeks. Daniel Suarez, third place finish, said he thought he was the fastest car at one point. I'm not sure if he was ever faster than Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, even though he still finished ahead of him after the disqualification. Of course, I'm not sure if he was ever quite that fast, as they were obviously using an illegal substance on the front of the race car, but he was pretty decently fast today. Ended up getting a third place finish. Christopher Bell, very consistent driver. I name him in the top 5, top 10 every single week. Last week's winner in New Hampshire. Christopher Bell once again is in the top. He gets a 4th place finish, which is pretty good for him, obviously. Very consistent and trying to get more wins on his career as well. Kyle Larson ends up finishing in the 5th position. Michael McDowell gets a 6th place finish. Once again, the 34 team is in the top 10. It's kind of cool to see the 34 team of Michael McDowell, that 34 Ford, running up front. Before that 2021 Daytona 500 win, a top 10 or even a top 20 was almost unprecedented for that 34 team. It was very rare, unusual to get outside of a super speedway race. They got the Daytona 500 win, which obviously seemed to help a little bit. And then this next gen car came in, and they were able to obviously put in the work, put in the time and effort to be somewhat competitive. I'm not going to say they're going to get a win this year and get in the playoffs, but they're definitely running way better than they previously have. Top 10 on a regular basis right now for the 34 team. You have Martin Truex Jr., the other Joe Gibbs Toyota, who finished 7th. Bubba Wallace, who had a pretty good run today, ended up finishing in the 8th position. Pretty decent run for Bubba Wallace. Didn't have any issues on pit road, which is definitely something, a point of conversation, as he was actually running the 40 Kurt Busch's pit crew. And then Eric Jones 9th, and then Austin Dillon in the 10th position. I do want to talk about a couple other finishers, mainly just Ty Gibbs. I do want to mention him. This is his first career start today after Kurt Busch announced that he would not be running. NASCAR did not clear him after the wreck yesterday in qualifying with concussion-like symptoms. So obviously we all, keeping Kurt in our minds. Hope he is back at the Indy Road Course next week and is able to race next week. But it was cool to see Ty Gibbs race, somewhat competitively today at Pocono. Ended up getting a 16th place finish, come across the line 18th, but did officially end up in the 16th position. That's not bad. I think for Ty Gibbs, just to finish this race was important. They were talking to him at the beginning of the race saying, just hang back at first, get some track time, learn the race car, learn where you can push it, learn where you can't. That's exactly what he did for the first 2 stages. And then once we started the 3rd stage, he was racing somewhat competitively and ended up getting a top 20, 16th place. Not too bad. Beat over half the field today, Ty Gibbs did. So not a terrible debut for the youngster, for the 19-year-old Ty Gibbs, who is probably going to be at the Cup level by 2024 at the latest. So we'll have to continue to watch him. I thought that was exciting to see. He's probably one of the only reasons right now I watch the Xfinity Series. Between him and Noah Gragson, they are definitely 2 very talented young drivers. And then, of course, their they might even be a bit more popular than some of the Cup guys. So certainly interesting to see those two move on up into Cup. We'll have to see how that evolves in the next few years. Do want to look at the point standings just real quick. Obviously, you have Cindric and Bell on this list. They both have wins, and with Christopher Bell with 5 playoff points, Cindric with 6 playoff points, which is why they're in 13th and 14th on the grid. You have Ryan Blaney, which is 105 points in. Sure, he's 105 points in the cut line, but I think with the racetracks you have coming up, you have 2 road course races coming up. You have Daytona to finish out the regular season. Michigan, we don't know what kind of racing we'll see there. Richmond, that could create a fuel mileage race winner or tire wear race winner like it did in the spring. So I think if you're Ryan Blaney, you at least want to be ahead of Truex. And obviously with Blaney getting involved in that hefty crash today did not help in the point situation. Obviously Truex is 83 above, so it's a 22-point difference. So I think really Ryan Blaney wants to stay ahead of Truex, because if you do get a winner that's below the cut line, a Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, Eric Jones, Austin Dillon, a Bubba Wallace could possibly get one. He's been showing speed. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. could get one. Don't even count Brad out when we go to Daytona. He's really good at those type of racetracks. That will raise that cut line one more spot, and that will put Truex under. And then obviously if you get 2 more wins, that would put Blaney under as well, if it's not one of those 2 guys, of course. So certainly interesting to watch. We have to continue to see how that playoff bubble evolves. Like I said, still got a couple of wild card races coming up. 5 more races left in the regular season. I think we might end up with 16 winners. I don't think we'll get a 17th winner, but we'll have to see how that continues to evolve. So a crazy bit of unfolding, a crazy events occurring after the Pocono race today. It was a really fun, interesting race to watch, a good race to watch on TV, and then you get the news after, you're like, whoa. So yeah, it's definitely disappointing for those guys, and congratulations to Chase on his 4th win of the year. Now, like I said, the obvious championship favorite. So we do go to the Indy Road Course next week. Be interesting to see how those Toyotas do run. They were really fast today, even excluding the front 2 that were disqualified. Christopher Bell ended up finishing 4th, obviously. Bubba Wallace in the top 10, Martin Truex in the top 10, and then, of course, you had Ty Gibbs running a fairly decent race in his first ever start. So it'll be interesting. I hope the Toyotas, especially Kyle Busch, doesn't run low 20s or high 30s next week at the road courses like they have all season, tends to be. We'll have to see how that goes. So that's it. That's all there's to talk about. And, of course, about Kyle Busch ultimately getting disqualified from Pocono this week. Let's get rowdy.